Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Prince Podcast here on Podcast Juice. My name is Michael Dean, and joining me today is Mr. Big Sexy and Saxer. How are you?
I'm doing great. Up late last night reading some oral argument from the U.S. Supreme Court. Oh, yes.
All right. Doing his lawyer thing.
Gotta stay in the know. Oh, yes.
Well, we have a special guest today. This is going to be a very good one for my super Prince heads. And this is going to be a great journey because you're going to see, coming from being a fan and then getting more involved into this Prince world. I love this. So we are going to welcome today Mr. Elan. How you doing, sir?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Nice to be here.
Man, it's going great. Thank you for coming on. Now, why is Elan on the show? Well, Elan, not only was he a Prince fan, but Elan also had the opportunity, and I would hope the pleasure, to work at Paisley Park, getting the place ready for the Paisley Park Museum and the tours, and specifically, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, his job there was to sort of catalog and archive Prince's clothing, among other things. So you can give us a lot of insight on, what was in there and what the preparation to get Paisley Park together and what it felt like for a fan to walk into that place and sort of be handed almost like the cookie jar and say, here, count the cookies.
Well, the funny thing is, it's been a year and a half, I guess, since we did that. And just hearing you kind of describe it still gives me chills. Wow. Because it was kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. I went there originally to help archive. My specialty was the photography because I worked in the photo industry now for maybe about 15 years. And specifically, I know film photography, and they knew that there was going to be a ton of film photography that needed to get archived. But once in a lifetime opportunity. I was very blessed, very lucky.
Can you explain, without, you don't have to be dropping names and things of that nature, but how does this opportunity come to you, or how do you get in position to get this type of thing? And also I have to shout out one of our listeners, one of my friends, Simbarash, because I was introduced to you through him. He's a long time listener of the show, and he's been on the show a couple of times in the past. And I know he is like, fashion photographer, and he's all over the world doing his thing. So talk to us a little bit in terms of how you even got sort of in this thing. How did it come together?
So, Prince passes. It's devastating for anybody who was a fan, and maybe even people who weren't fans. And I believe the timeline is sometime in June, I get a call from a contact, and they tell me hey, they're going to be partnering up with Graceland, and they're going to turn Paisley Park into a museum. And they're looking for someone that can help archive, and more importantly, someone they know they can trust. And I had worked with these people in the past, so we had a prior relationship. So I'm like, wow, this sounds like a great opportunity. If it comes to fruition, I'm in. Now, mind you, there's no dates or anything like that, because I think at this time there was the whole fight with, or I wouldn't say fight, but there was a whole thing with the heirs and who was a rightful heir and who wasn't. So they really couldn't figure out who was going to be able to make the call to turn it into a museum. So typical, even though Prince is obviously not involved at this time, just the stuff that you hear about how Prince was, it's literally, I get a call on a Thursday in September, and they tell me, hey, we want you to come down. There's a plane ticket for you. We need you on a plane tomorrow. Now, that's a regular job at this point. So they give me a 1-day notice to get to Minnesota. So this is they called me during my lunch hour. So I'm like, okay, how am I going to tell my boss now that I got to take a leave of absence? Because look, there was no way I was going to turn down the opportunity. I mean, I would have walked into my boss's office, and if they told me I couldn't do it, I would have resigned on the spot. Because I knew it was going to be a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I would never be able to forgive myself. Now, lucky for me, my boss was pretty understanding, and with technology and stuff, I was able to to do some work with my regular job while I was at Paisley, usually in the evenings. So I actually got on a plane on Saturday, and I got to Paisley. It was like whirlwind. The 2 days between finding out that I was doing it and doing it just went by like snap of a finger. Like just, okay, you're going to be out there for multiple months. You got to pack enough clothes. I really tried. Like I had seen a couple of photos of Paisley Park, but obviously there wasn't that much out there. But I made it a point not to research anything about Paisley because I kind of wanted to take it all in at once. So it happened really quickly.
And was this the first time you had ever been there?
First time I had ever been there.
Wow.
So I land and they tell me, hey, Sean's gonna pick you up. Sean was one of the dudes who worked at Paisley with security and stuff. Picks me up at Minneapolis Airport. The flight that I get on is actually really interesting because the flight that I took to Minneapolis, that was the weekend of the Revolution reunion, was the weekend that I went up. So I'm on the flight and there's all these Prince heads on the flight, tons of them. And I'm across the aisle from Maya Rudolph. And I don't know the other person that she does that Prince tribute thing with, but whoever that was, they're like sitting across from me. And I'm so excited that I'm going to Paisley and to be able to help out. But I don't want to say it to anybody, you know? But it was just a trip that there was that many Prince fans on my flight.
That's very interesting. So talk to me about, I want to know, like, though, and let me ask this question first to set that up. How far back, I mean, when did you first get into Prince? Let's say that.
Yeah, so first time I can remember Prince, I was 7 or 8 years old, and my mom was babysitting the hot older girl that lived in the building. Yeah, and her mom hadn't let her see Purple Rain, when it was in theater. So we went to the video store. There, for the younger audience, there actually used to be stores where you would rent.
Right.
And they got Purple Rain. So I'm sitting there. I'm about 7 or 8 years old, and I'm watching this thing, and it's like messing with my sensibilities because it's like this really, really pretty man who looks very feminine is like getting all the girls. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. But the first time that I kind of remember getting into his music, the first Prince album I bought when it came out was Diamonds and Pearls in 93. Or I'm sorry, 91. Get Off was awesome. It was like nothing I had ever heard because we were all at that age into hip hop. Mm-hmm. And it was like a hip hop song kind of, but with shredding guitar. When I really, really got into them, though, was a couple of years later. I was hanging out with these girls, and they had the hit CDs. So they'd be playing these hit CDs in their car while we'd be going to the mall and stuff. I was like, man, this dude has a lot of hit songs. I should start kind of buying his catalog. You know, I had Purple Rain. I think everybody had Purple Rain. But then I started buying, I bought 1999. I bought Controversy. I bought Dirty Mind. I was just blown away by more and more by each album I heard. And then I went full-fledged. But what sold me was the first time I saw him live. I just couldn't believe that there could be one musician that was that talented. Not only the way he performed, but the way that he played instruments, wrote songs, and sung. He was just one of a kind.
Where was this concert at?
First time I saw him was at the old Aladdin in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Now, the best Prince show I saw was, you guys familiar with, it's not Kodak anymore. I think it's Dolby now, but Kodak Theater, where they have the Academy Awards.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
So I saw him there. We were in college. We had a friend that worked at Ticketmaster, so we got hooked up where we got really good seats, but we had to pay full price. So it was like $150 for the seats, but we had awesome seats. So mind you, we're in school, so $150 is a lot of money for us. We go, we see the show. It's amazing. If you ever get a chance to watch a concert at Dolby, you should take the opportunity because the acoustics in that building are amazing. So we see the show, plays like 2.5 hours, and then right as the show ends, they announce Prince is having an after party upstairs at the Highlands, $50 to get in. So my buddy and I look at each other and we're like, man, $50, that's a lot of beer money. We're already out 150 on this thing, but it's like, you've heard these stories, how legendary these after shows are. Okay, we got to go to the after show. So we go to the after show. They announced it at 12, supposed to be 12. Of course, Prince doesn't show up until like about 1:20. He plays till probably about 3 a.m. And by the time it's wrapping up, it's a super intimate crowd. There can't be more than 40 people in there. So I'm maybe 4 feet away. Like if I wanted to reach out and grab his ankle on the stage, I could have. Now, I didn't do that, but I could have done it. But the funny thing was, it was LA, so it was a big industry crowd. So I remember Paula Abdul, and this is when American Idol was really big. Paula Abdul goes on stage with like a tambourine, and she's drunk, like she is wasted. She's on the edge of the stage with the tambourine, and she falls off the stage. So Prince is playing the guitar, and he kind of glances at her, and he makes this look. I wish we were on video so I could make the look, but he kind of just sneers at her, and he doesn't stop. He just sneers, kind of laughs, and just keeps playing. It was awesome.
Wow. Man. So with all of that, so, getting into Prince and seeing those shows, now take me back to, you took the flight out to Minneapolis. They're driving you up. You're getting to Chanhassen. What was it like walking in? Well, first of all, coming down that street and seeing that building is an experience unto itself if you've never seen it before. So talk to us, lead us into that, man. Go to that.
So Minnesota was way more country than I thought it was going to be, especially where it was at. I didn't realize that, Chanhassen is kind of, I mean, there's not really too much around there. Right. So yeah, you're driving up and you see nature and stuff, and being born and raised in LA, we're not really used to seasons. It's just always hot here. And I'd gotten there, it was just starting to turn fall. So I remember taking it all in like, oh, this is really, really beautiful stuff. And then, yeah, you drive up to that building and it's insane. Now, especially at that point, because, they were covering the fence with all of the notes from fans and everything they were leaving. So there was like a crowd of people there. You almost felt like every time we went in the morning, like you were a celebrity, because we would be driving in. And I was funny. I find this out later, but I'm in like an Escalade. It looks like, like kind of a limo. And people are like, oh, who the heck are these people coming into Paisley Park? And they have to clear out because, I mean, at this point there was fans everywhere. So yeah, it just hits you. So I get in there, I come in through the front and signaled, hey, come upstairs. And I walk upstairs and I go into the back. And the very first thing I see is the Raspberry Beret outfit. They had pulled that. So they had the full Raspberry Beret suit that he's wearing in the video and the shoes. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm actually seeing this stuff. I can't believe how lucky I am. Now, it turns out that I came to find out, I put one and one together. I was picked, those photos of Prince that surfaced like the day before, 2 days before he passed, where he was at the Walgreens. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That, how they have that Escalade in the background? That was his car. That's the car that I was riding in.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Which
I'm glad I didn't know right when I got there, because I don't know. I don't know how I would have reacted to that. That would have been kind of eerie.
Right. Man, so you're getting in there, and so talk to us a little bit about the process, and if you can specifically, like, is there did they walk you into some sort of room and there's just boxes of clothing, or how is it?
Have you guys ever been to Paisley?
I've been there.
Mike has. I have not.
Okay, so I get there and they're like, okay, we have this date we need to open the museum by. And there's tons of reasons why, but they had to have it open by that date. So I'm a very positive person by nature. I'm like, there's no problem. We're going to be able to get this done. Then they show me where all the stuff is. So the main soundstage at Paisley, you guys know how big that thing is, right? Mm-hmm. Or Mike does. And Big Sexy, when you go there, you'll see. That thing was full of clothes. The entire room was covered in clothes, and everything in that room needed to be cataloged and photographed. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, there's no way that, in my head, I don't say this out loud. I'm like, there's no way they're going to get this thing open as quickly as they think. Because I think at that point, they were aiming to have it open in about 2 months. And it was like, there's no possible way that you're going to be able to photograph and catalog all this stuff. But, they put together a great team. They put together a lot of people that are experts in their field of archiving. They had some of Prince's old costume designers come in. to work, and through a lot of hard work, we were able to get through it and get it done. But it was quite overwhelming. I mean, you can imagine the amount of clothes and outfits that Prince had accumulated in a 40-year career.
What span of time frame did you see things from? Like, what was the earliest period that you saw stuff from?
1999.
Okay.
Maybe some controversy. No, actually, you know what? Let me rephrase that. Controversy stuff was the earliest.
Wow. Now listen, if they would have never had me for nothing, like, because I wouldn't know how to be professional, because I would have walked in, I'd have waited till everybody left, I'd have got butt ass naked, and I would have been trying on clothes. I was like, that's not fitting. Well, no, I'm just joking, but
don't think that thought didn't cross my mind. Not the butt naked part, but definitely wanting to try on stuff. And the funny thing is too, the majority of the team was female, and I think, I thought the clothes was awesome for, just the historical stuff and seeing it. The girls were like just amazed at how nice the clothes was, and like, oh my God, I could fit into this, because Prince was a small dude.
Right.
So the girls are like, oh wow, I would love this piece and all that stuff. But it's awesome. So you got these boxes, right? And it's those like, you've seen those moving boxes that you keep clothes in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all that. That's all it is. It's just hundreds of boxes just like that. So you're opening up a box, you're taking the stuff out, you're looking at it. So you're going through it, and for me, and I think there was a couple of other fans there, but for me, I'm going through it and I'm like seeing like, oh my God, the graffiti bridge jacket.
Mm.
Oh man, is this the purple raincoat? No, I think it might be from that, because in 1999 and Purple Rain, it's somewhat of a similar code. You're just seeing this stuff. I find the leather. I found the leather jacket from the Kiss video, and it's just like, for me, it's like my mind is blown. I'm like, oh my God, this stuff really exists. There's a really kind of a funny story too. We're going through his stuff and we find a lot of gold era stuff. So we find a jacket from the gold era. I find the jacket, and when you're going through it, you got gloves on because obviously you don't want to damage the clothes, and you're going through the pockets too to see if you're going to find anything. So I see that there's a lump in the pocket, so I go in and I pull out, and he's got these really cool, like custom made gloves with symbols on them. I reach into the other pocket and I feel around, and he's got like $100 in 20s, but these are old 20s. From the 90s, you could tell.
Man. I
turned the $100 in. I don't know what they did with it. I guess they would keep it and not spend it because, it's kind of part of the archive, but it was funny that I found his tipping money.
Wow.
I really got an appreciation too, guys. And when you get a chance to go out there, I know you guys are going to soak it in like the fans that you are, but just the attention to detail with everything, like all of the shoes, all of his shoes either had the symbol, the love symbol. They had the precursor to that symbol. They had a peace sign for all the love sexy stuff. When we found the shoes from the Batman video where he's playing Gemini, they had the bat, the Batman sign. Just the attention to detail in the clothing. And we knew as fans the attention to detail in the music, but I think that just everything that had to do with his art, he had a tremendous attention to detail for.
Wow. So you guys would go through these clothing and you would lay them out, take pictures, and then somehow identify the time period that they came from, or?
That's correct.
Okay.
They would do that. What you're looking for too at that point, and I think one of the reasons they brought me in was because being such a big fan, I could help them figure out what I thought people would want to see. Like maybe someone that's a professional archivist but not really into Prince might not know the significance of like the graffiti bridge jacket, for example. Mm-hmm. But when I would see that, I would say, no, that needs to be pulled because that's going to be a piece that you want to have displayed the first go around.
And how long does this you mentioned that it was months before the place opened. How close to the wire does it get to getting this stuff done, and then we're opening in a day or so or whatever?
I mean, down to the wire, man. The night before we opened, we were there until 4:00 in the morning, and we had to be back at 6. Now, when I'm telling you all hands on deck, it's all hands on deck. Like one of the things that I got from being there so long is how much people love this dude. Like the people that work for him, the people around him. I'll tell you a story, and he'll probably, I mean, I hope when I run into him, he doesn't get mad, but Kirk Johnson's there. Kirk's an awesome dude. Kirk is a big dude. He doesn't really need to be there. The night before, he's vacuuming at 4 a.m. Vacuuming. You have people he is vacuuming to help us get this thing set up. Wow. So we get back there at 6 a.m. and it's literally like, I think we're scheduled to open at 10 or 11 is the first run of tours. Probably like till about 9:40, we're busting trying to get that thing up and going, because there was, aside from because before they could open it to the public, they had to have all the clothes archived. But aside from that, it was just getting the place ready for people to go through. And then, there's so many aspects, because you also have to design a tour that you think that the fans are going to enjoy. Because obviously Prince had some stuff set up. I think he had ideas that he wanted to turn it into a museum, but it wasn't a full-fledged museum, and it definitely wasn't a tour of the entire first floor. It was very kind of limited to what he was going to show. But yeah, we were right up against it.
What, so I imagine, initially when you come in, the energy is high and excitement and all this, but did it ever come to a part where, it's like, man, this is a job, like, day for day? I mean, talk to us about like, how late, what time do you start in the morning? What time do you normally walk out of there? What was a normal day like?
Well, that's a really great question. This is what I do for a living. So I wanted to take it very serious. And for me, it might sound lame to people, but it was kind of my way of giving back. Like all the pleasure and all the stuff that Prince gave me through his music, I figured that the least that I could do was work really hard to get this museum up and running, so that in 20 or 30 years, people can go and visit it. And, people like my niece's age that know nothing about Prince, they can go there and learn about him. So it was important. At the end of the day, though, it was a job. Now, there's that saying, like, it's not work if it's something you enjoy doing. And I can say that we worked really hard, but for me, there was not a day that I felt like, oh man, I want to go home or I'm tired. And I mean, we worked hard, man. We were probably working a minimum of 12-hour days, 7 days a week. I was in Minnesota for close to 3 months, and I went out 2 times. We went to the second First Ave show with the Revolution the second day I was there, because we couldn't miss that. And then we went out to dinner with Bobby Z and his wife. But that was it socially. Everything else was just work and preparing for work. But it was really, really rewarding, especially like seeing the faces of the people when we first opened it up. When we got going, one of the things they asked me to do was, again, they got a lot of flack for a lot of different stuff. And one of them that I read was the reviews of the tour that the tour guides weren't as knowledgepedia. You have to realize they put that tour together very, very quickly, and they hired people, and not everybody is going to have an encyclopedia-like knowledge of Prince and his music and stuff. So you got to give those people time. But one of the things they had me do the first go around was do the VIP tours. And that was super fun, because I got to interact with a lot of the fans, and I just got to see how important this dude was to them. That was extremely rewarding. I met some really, really cool people that I keep in contact with. So,
well, what was the spirit, or what was the energy like of those first tours?
Very emotional. People were excited to be there, but super emotional. I mean, people were. I don't think there was one tour I did, and those first couple of days where someone didn't cry at some point during the tour. But I think it was very cathartic for people too, because it kind of, they were allowed to be around people that felt the same way as them. And it was kind of a release for them. You know, and you talk about the energy of the place too. That's interesting. So, you know, we worked really hard the night before. We had like a 2-hour break, and then we had to be back at work. I did those tours the first day, and I didn't stop for 12 hours. Now, nobody asked me to do that. They were bugging me to take a break. Now, I knew that if I took a break, though, I'd probably want to sleep. So I just kept going, and it was weird. I just got this like energy something made me want to do it and just go for 12 straight hours walking that place, and just showing people and talking to them about different parts of Paisley. So like Prince's aura came over me or something.
Wow. What was it? I think me and you may have talked about this a while ago, but you know, off the air, but I remember when it first opened, there was a lot of discussion about the urn, you know, and the ashes and things of that nature. And I imagine that, I think that was when you guys started the tour. If you started the tour, you sort of started at that point. Was that right? At least back then. Maybe.
Yeah. Right by the entrance, because it was at the atrium. So yeah, you couldn't help but pass by it.
Well, what I wanted to ask you specifically is, when did you become aware of that? I'm just curious, because obviously you knew it was there before you started the tour. But I wanted to know, how did you feel when you saw that or knew, like, yo, this is what this is? And, you know, I'm just curious what you feel about it.
Are you asking me as a fan or as a...
as a fan? I mean, just when you're working, I'd imagine there was some point when they let you guys know, hey, we're going to have this at the, you know, the urn's going to be at the start of this thing. I'm just curious, how did you feel as a fan working there? Like, whoa.
As a fan, I didn't like it. But I understood that was the family's wishes, were that the urn be kept at Paisley. And I believe they've changed it now from where it's at. But if you're asking me as a fan, I just didn't. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't have put it there. But that's just me.
How did you deal with that? Like, when you started the tour, I mean, were you emotional to explain to people what this is? And I assume you asked them, do you want to walk by this, or how did that work? Well,
the thing is, you cannot not walk by it, because it's right there. So you're definitely going to see it. You want it to be respectful of people and let them just pay their piece to it. And, you know, people would go up and they'd bow their heads, maybe say a few words. I know at the beginning, we would have like when we would start the tour, we would give everybody like a little moment of silence to kind of gather their thoughts. I would explain to them, and the other tour guides would too, what they were about to see, because it was, you know, right around the bend from the front door. Like when you walked a few feet, you were going to see it, and we didn't want to catch anybody by surprise. I never, you know, what's funny, Michael, is like we were talking about how I went down there to do a job. I never got emotional while I was inside of Paisley. The only time that I got really emotional was when I went outside to photographically document the fence, you know, all of the stuff that the fans had left there. And one of the things that Paisley got a lot of flack for, which I can tell you was nonsense, was they were saying, oh, they're just taking this stuff down. They don't care about the fans. And that's not true. The city council, before they allowed it to become a museum, one of the prerequisites was all of that stuff had to be removed, because, and this happened the first time I showed up at Paisley Park, you know, that's a highway. That's not a street. It's a highway. The car in front of us just stopped, and people got out of the car to put stuff on that fence. So the city was just thinking, at some point, somebody's going to get hit by a car. You guys need to remove everything. Now, everything was removed, but it was cataloged, and they didn't throw anything away. All of that stuff was there. So where I got super emotional was I'm on that wall, and you're taking some stuff down, and then, you know, you can't help but read a note or something like that. And it just gets you really, really emotional, because you're like, wow, the way that this dude affected other people is amazing. I'll tell you a funny story. one of the things that was taken down that was there was it was a FedEx, like those flat FedEx envelopes. It was on there, and opened it up, and there was a Minnesota Vikings flag in the envelope and a note. And the note said something to the effect of, "Hey, I saw this flag put on the fence, and I took it, but now I feel really bad that I stole it." It was addressed to. I feel really bad that I stole it, so I'm shipping it back to you guys.
Wow. Now, for the listeners, I can actually see Elan as we're doing this, and I can see the emotions on him as he's talking. I hope that it is coming across as you're listening to him. And I say that because it is a emotional thing to have the opportunity to, work in such a capacity of this and something that's important, but then to see the love that not only Prince put out there, but like you said, that he got back. Because, I went to Paisley Park well after you did your thing, and most of that wall is a little different, but I saw those things too, and it is very powerful to see the stuff that people created out of love and then take the time to go there and put that stuff up there. And some of the stuff is like works of art, like, you're like, man, you can see the passion that people had. It's incredible, man. Like that's why I say that, to me, that building is just like, there's so much is sort of oozing out of that. You can't help but walk up to that building and feel, there was all that work that we had put into that, you know what I'm saying? And you can see that, man, Prince was actually in here doing all this stuff. So that leads me to this other question. We talked about the clothing, but I'm sure, like, what other things that you got to see? And you can mention things or not, but things that just sort of like, whoa, kind of set you back, like, gosh, I don't know if you got to go into the studios or, again, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, this is more, this interview, or I don't even feel like it's an interview. I feel like it's a chat where just some Prince fans are having, is so much more fun for me than it probably is for you guys or for the fans. Yeah, man. So I went in there. There's a couple of things that really stick out. The photography. So I went there, and I got my hands on a ton of original negatives and stuff. And I had worked in LA with a bunch, not a bunch, but a few photographers that I worked with Prince. So like Jimmy Steinfeld, Randy St. Nicholas, Greg Katz, those were clients of mine. So I'd seen some really, really cool stuff that they had shot of him. But I'm going through just boxes and boxes of negatives. And I tell people, like, Prince could not take a bad photo. It was impossible. I must have looked at probably 10 to 15,000 individual images of Prince. And I'm not just talking about the stuff that, like, oh, okay, this is what they're going to use for this album or for this book or whatever. I'm looking at proof sheets. So I'm seeing every shot that was shot on that roll. And the guy could not take a bad photograph. It was unbelievable. So you're seeing, like, stuff from the Diamonds and Pearls era, the Parade era stuff that Greg Katz shot is some of my favorite photography, because I'm kind of particular to black and white photography. So you're just seeing all this cool stuff. And I'm set up in the main sound stage with a little light table and my little loop. And I'm just going through each photograph and pulling aside the ones that I think are really cool and just making sure that they're archived properly so that, they last, because they start to denigrate. And I have this moment where I'm just sitting there and I'm like, wow, I'm actually getting paid money to do this. Because had they brought me in and told me, hey, you get to go through all this photography, I would have done it for free. So once I finished with the photo archiving, they let me do some other stuff. Now, you want to talk about, like, finding stuff that'll blow your mind. I'm going through boxes of stuff, and there's just boxes with just notebooks and notebooks and notebooks. So you go through, you open up a notebook, start to read it, and I realize that I'm holding in my hands the treatment for Purple Rain, his basic outline for the story. And I'm like, oh my God. So at that point, I'm reading this, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, just like, my mind's blown. I can't even imagine what my face looks like. And one of the dudes walks in and he looks at me and he's like, oh my God, are you crying? And I'm like, no. And I wasn't crying. I think my face was more just astonishment, like, oh my God, I'm looking at this right now. So the very first day that I'm doing the tours, we're in the Purple Rain room, and he comes in and he's mentioning all the cool stuff that we have there. And he's like, yeah, and we have the notebook with the Purple Rain treatment. In fact, Elan was looking at it the other day, and I caught him crying. And the group of like 20 people that were on the tour started busting up. But you would see stuff like that, you know, like one thing that sticks in my head is I saw the original handwritten lyrics for America. Completely different than what the released version was. Talks about the war in Afghanistan that was taking place in, between Russia and Afghanistan in the 80s. That's specifically mentioned in the original lyrics that he wrote. Wow. Like, wow, I didn't realize that he was so aware of what was going on around him in the world. So you get to see these things that you grew up listening to, and you get to see him. The Baby I'm a Star was another one. The original lyrics. It was, I think it wasn't originally Baby I'm a Star. It was the chorus was not Baby I'm a Star. Was Star Star was the chorus. At least the way he had written it down. And then another one that sticks out is Jungle Love. Jungle Love, I'm convinced, was written for Vanity 6 and not The Time. And when
Headbusters.
Well, yeah. So the reason that I'm convinced is because the lyrics that I saw had directions on what Vanity should be doing at certain points. And then if you listen to the lyrics of the song and think of it from a female perspective, I think it makes plenty of sense.
Wow. Okay.
So
yeah, that makes sense, actually.
Stuff like that, dude. You're opening up these boxes and you're just seeing original concept art for 1999, like completely different album cover than what the finished product was. Wow. One of the things that I saw that was really cool too was the original negative that was, the shot, the album cover, Purple Rain, the iconic shot of Prince on the motorcycle. Mm-hmm. Saw the original negative. It was a 4x5 black and white negative. So think about that wasn't shot on color film. That was shot on black and white, and they used gels to create the color for the poster. And to see that entire shot uncropped, what it looked like was, I mean, for a photo nerd like me was really cool. And for a Prince nerd like me was even better.
Wow.
So there's like a ton of things in there, even just from going through these boxes that, would keep our minds busy probably for a lifetime.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And then we move over to, I start like kind of archiving some of the videos and stuff. Did you guys read the Rolling Stone article that came out before Paisley? It wasn't really an article. It was more of a blurb about the hidden room that they found.
And listing all this wild titles of stuff, is that?
The hidden video room.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Hidden Bay.
Yes.
I was there that day. That was a funny story. I went downstairs to that editing bay to ask somebody a question, and I see the architect is walking around and he's holding his plans. And he's looking, and something to him doesn't make sense because it doesn't match the plans he's looking at. And I start to walk up the stairs, and I hear like a loud gasp. I'm like, what the hell happened in there? And I walk in, and somebody had been pressing on a wall, and this secret wall just opened up. Nobody knew about it. And there was tons of videos in there too. But one of the things I got to do was go through some of the videos. Now, obviously, we were super respectful. I didn't take any photos in there, none of that stuff. The one time that I really was like, man, I wish I could share this with people, was I was going through some videos, and there was a video of Prince playing basketball, exactly like the Chappelle Show skit, where he is in full stage attire and everybody else is in regular clothes. Now, the only difference between that and the Chappelle Show skit was that he was not wearing heels. He had basketball sneakers on. That might not make sense to the normal person, but when you go through a lot of videos, when Prince was rehearsing, it was a straight up rehearsal. It wasn't, I'm showing up in sweats and a t-shirt. He was rehearsing in full costume, and he's doing costume changes during his rehearsal. So I imagine what happened is he was in costume and they were taking a break, and he went out to shoot hoops. And when I tell that story to my friends, I haven't told that many people, but just my close friends, they always ask, well, what kind of player was he? And I was like, he was actually pretty good from what I saw on the tape. He reminded me of Steph Curry. He's a small dude, so he had to have a really quick release or he was going to get a shot blocked. So they're like playing 21 and he's sneaky. He's not going to get a rebound, but somebody gets a rebound, he's going to sneak up behind him and try to steal it, that sort of stuff. But that was like really cool. I was like, man, I wish I could share this so people could see that was actually real.
Wow, that's great. What year do you think that video was from?
Had to be 85, 86. No, you know what? 84, 85. It was Purple Rain era for sure. Because of his hair in the video. So yeah, it was Purple Rain. And
I'm just curious, like what kind of quality was the video footage?
That one wasn't that great because it was just somebody's little camcorder that they had just pointed at like the basket, so he would come in and out of the frame.
Okay.
But you would run into professionally recorded concerts that if you're a fan of Prince, you probably knew these existed, but maybe you had never seen it. Like one of the ones that blew my mind was he did a parade show in England, and I think they were gonna broadcast it, but they didn't. It's shot completely in black and white. Now I had heard the bootleg because before I worked for Paisley, I was a fan. I heard the bootleg of the Miss You, where he has Sting and Ronnie Wood come up on the stage. You guys ever seen or heard that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but to see it on a professionally shot video that was supposed to air.
Wow.
And I mean, you just can't take your eyes off the guy. It's beautifully shot. I have no idea why they never released that. But, we would hear that stuff from, I became friendly. I would see Kurt Johnson and other people every day. And, we'd go out to lunch or something and we would just sit there and Kirk would tell us the most interesting stories or whoever. And he was mentioning like, yeah, they would just shoot these videos and then they'd never see them again. And occasionally they'd be surprised because something would be released and other times it just wouldn't. But there's just so much cool stuff that they have. And hopefully, because it's two different entities, the people doing the tours and running Paisley Park and the people that are in charge of like the music, the vault and the videos and that stuff. Hopefully some of that stuff sees the light of day because the fans would just be blown away by what's there. And I mean, they can live off that archive for decades.
Well, hopefully we'll see some video thing. They announced the was it Prince on the big screen thing that's going to happen. I guess supposedly that's unseen video footage. I guess they have a band playing with it. So I don't know. Maybe this is an opportunity that they will start to dive into at least a sample of that.
What do you guys think about that as fans?
About the Prince on the big screen?
With like a backing band.
Well, it all depends who the backing band's going to be. That's the first thing that I would, look at. And, let's be real here. A lot of us fans, us hardcore fans, have seen a lot of things that the general public has not seen, video-wise. So if you have, I'm just going to make a, perhaps here, you have someone like Michael Bland playing along with it, with something he was at, I'm okay with that. But if you have, someone who wasn't part of any part of the bands, but was a big, really heavy fan, which is cool, but I don't think I want to see that. I don't want to see, somebody contemporary who wasn't really involved with the creation playing along with it, because then it becomes like a step away from karaoke, and I'm not with that.
I would say, well, here, if it's just for me personally, I want to just see the video and hear it as it was. Like his bands are fire when they do these things. So if it was, for instance, if they showed something from the parade, era or hit and run, I want to hear that band that was playing. With respect to all of the players they got today, which I think are dope, I still want to just hear that revolution that was playing at that time and how their musicianship was. That's how I would personally want it. Though I will say, and I have bought a ticket, so I'm going to this, but I can see the entertainment entertainment of putting it in an arena and having, a live band playing, I guess, in tangent with this? I'm very curious how that works. Are they just going to mute the music and have them play? I can see how that would be kind of cool, but if it was my choice, I would say, you know what? Just have it at Paisley Park on the sound stage and just let the videos play. You ain't got to touch them, but that's just me.
I feel like you do, Michael. I think that the remaster those things, do whatever you got to do to improve the sound quality if possible, and just let them play on their own. I don't think that it needs to be, you need to have a live band. But again, that's just my opinion. It's funny because like when I went to Celebration, I worked Celebration last year, and they would do the videos, and then there would be people that would be coming up to me angry, like, "Man, I've already seen this video. Right. I have a bootleg of it." And, okay, but the thing is, most people haven't seen this video, and they're trying to create an experience not only for the super fan who has everything, but also for the person who who's a fan, but, doesn't know where they can get the unreleased music or doesn't have a hookup to get a video. So, they're kind of trying to keep it balanced for the hardcore fan and the normal fan.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in terms of stuff like that, I can't be mad if they show something that I've seen on a bootleg. That's not their fault. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. That's me. So I'm not mad at that. I would just expect that hopefully the quality would have been better than what I may have seen before, or may just acoustically, I haven't seen this show in a huge room with a group of people watching it. That's a certain thing to have that type of experience as well. So, but I'm all open to it. But hearing what you're talking about though, in terms of the videos and stuff, that's crazy. Now, let me just ask, without going too deep, I mean, like, and you've mentioned this off the air, but I mean, how much stuff do you think was recorded? Everything.
Wow. He recorded every I can promise you that at a certain point in his career, and it was probably in the I would say starting in the late 80s, he recorded he recorded everything. I mean, dude, he would have professionally shot sound checks, like 3-camera sound checks. It was ridiculous. They were showing that the opening week of Paisley in the editing bay was he was I think it was a concert in Washington, and during sound check he's got a professionally recorded sound check. Now, people weren't like that amazed, but it's like, dude, nobody records sound checks with 3 cameras and they're not panning to different members of the band while they're playing their key portion of the song. It's unreal. I mean, there's just going to be so much stuff. Now, some of it might be redundant. Like, you have the musicology tour, and if he videotaped every single night of the musicology tour, the set's probably not changing that much from night to night. But nonetheless, you probably have footage from every single tour that he did that you could splice together. But I mean, he recorded. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that.
You said you're saying too much. You're saying too much.
They get crazy when Amazon delivers something. No, they just have so much stuff, man. That. But I think the big thing too is, a lot of it that I saw was on VHS. Now, newer stuff like the piano and a mic stuff they had, that was all shot digitally, so you're okay with that. But any of the things that are shot on VHS, you have to have digitally transferred. I mean, they have to do that anyway to protect it, because the videotapes denigrate after a while. But you'd have to have that transferred and then, cleaned up or whatever. And I really don't know enough about that process to know how quickly they would be able to get something like that done. But there is a treasure trove of stuff. I'm hopeful that with these talks of, they're going to be releasing all this stuff from the vault. I don't know about you guys. What did you guys think about the Purple Rain remaster?
Actually, before I answer that, let me go back, because something just popped in my head about the video production or performances and whatnot. Let me ask you this. Since he did film everything, and they're going to be showing things on the big screen and bands were playing with it, what about certain songs? Because we know that in his later years, his spiritual preferences would let him use certain words. Now, what about concerts that have those songs or certain phrases? Are they going to be left intact with a disclaimer, or are they going to be edited out? How do they handle that?
That I really don't know how they would handle that, but I can tell you from last year's celebration, one of the shows they played was from the Purple Rain tour, I think the Orange Bowl show in Miami, and they didn't edit anything out of that show. So, but I think that's probably more for the family or the trust to answer.
All right. Well, now to answer your question of the remasters, I enjoyed a lot of the content. But it's like we were saying earlier, a lot of us hardcores, we had most of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But having said that, to hear it in, pristine, official, formatting, and especially, computer blue like that, blew my head open. I was great with it.
You read my mind. I would have paid the $40 just for the clean version of computer blue.
Exactly.
That sounds so long. I think that the formula that they set up with that, though, would be really cool. Like, how awesome would it be to have a remastered Parade within a second or third disc with, B-sides and extended versions, and then maybe some unreleased stuff, and then throw a video, a concert like the concert that I'm telling you guys about that I got to see from the Parade tour in England, a DVD of that. I mean, that would just blow my mind.
Yeah.
I hope that they do that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say, I would love that. And just even thinking about the celebration and this big screen thing, and I think I may have mentioned this, I did before, but I would love, man, if they just almost, make this as this like Comic-Con for Prince fans. And, like when you go to Comic-Con, they always have the special presentation by the movie people, and they'll show like stuff that they don't show, they don't release it on YouTube or nothing. It's just for you. You paid the money to come here. We're going to show you this stuff. I would have no problem every year if I knew, hey, you got to pay $500, but one night they just going to let the videos play. Okay, we're going Love Sexy. We're going to show you the rehearsals and the da-da-da, and we're going to pull out those tapes and play da-da-da, and it's only going to be right here. We're not going to sell this. We're charging a premium, but it's right here. I would have no problem with that. Like, that's cool. Like, 'cause I'm not even really worried about, like, how they're going to release the special edition albums. They'll do all that stuff, and hopefully those things will sell. But for me as a fan, I would just be more, I would pay a premium. I could fly my ass to Paisley Park, sit there on the ground, on the sound stage, and they let it roll. And I know I can only see it here. Nobody's taping it. It's just done right here. I'll be good with that every year. I could be, that way they didn't got to worry about how they can market it to everybody else. This is just for y'all. Like, y'all willing to spend all this money to not only fly out here, get hotels, and to pay to come in here, then of course, open it up for them. Let them, So.
Yeah, no, and I think that that's how the museum is going to be able to sustain itself, because there is that hardcore fan base. I mean, I would be in the same boat. I would, if that you're going to get a different experience each time, and it's going to be something that you would really enjoy, and it's only if you can go there. Of course, you're going to want to make that trip. I don't know. This just kind of popped in my head, but just talking about like bootlegs and stuff. So when I was doing the photo archiving, I was set up on the main soundstage, and before they built it out for the museum, it still had Prince's sound system in there. So you can imagine, state-of-the-art sound system. The people can't see, but I still have my iPod Classic.
What is that thing?
I got to have all the music at the same time, man. So they let me just take over the sound system. So I'm playing. All I was playing was Prince, obviously. Playing Prince on the best sound system I had ever heard. I'm hearing stuff, songs I'd never even heard. But the funny thing would be when I'd have it on shuffle and an unreleased track or a bootleg would come out, something that maybe I'm not supposed to have.
Wow.
But they seem to be fine with it. It was funny too, because people that had worked on, I never heard this version of the song. And well, again, before I worked here, I was a collector, so.
That would have been, God, that's, I don't know if that's ironic or what that is, to be able to play those songs on Prince's sound system, man, and to hear them in that way. That's crazy. Because I already know what I would fire up, and they would probably throw my ass out of there. What the hell are you doing?
Well, I was like they would let me play the stuff where he cursed on. No, I mean, nobody said anything. Maybe they weren't that happy with it. I don't know. But the people that were in there enjoyed the music that were in that room with me. So we were playing stuff before he converted.
Amazing. Sort of wrapping things up, but are you any plans to be there for Celebration 2018?
No, not this year, but okay. We'll see what happens in the future.
Okay.
But doesn't change the fact that that I loved what I did, and I think if you've never been there, I know it's pretty pricey, but it's really cool, and there's a lot of stuff going on in Minnesota that week. You can,
right?
A Prince fan, you can meet up with a lot of your fellow fans and make some really cool relationships. And Paisley Park's an amazing place, especially if you've never been there, just to kind of take the tour and see where everything was created. And I imagine they'll have some new stuff for you guys this year.
Yeah, I hope so. I actually didn't go inside last year. I just kind of went in town, just to hang out for the different events. But I'm going to go in, do it this time, and check it out, man. So I'm excited about that. Can you tell me the one thing that you saw during your work there that you haven't mentioned yet that just always stood out to you?
Wow. One thing that stands out to me is, a lot of it when you guys go on the tour is exactly as he left it. Like when you walk in, you know how when you walk in, you see those eyes looking at you? Mm-hmm. Big Sexy, when you go, you'll know exactly what I mean. Those graphics, if you look at them, they look a little bit soft. Like they're not tack sharp. That wasn't done that was just left as is. So they really, really tried to leave it exactly as he had it. I mean, they had to turn it into a museum to make it functional. So there were certain things that they needed to change. But in terms of like the first few rooms that you see when you walk in, those were exactly as he left them, including the wall graphics and all that stuff. I'm trying to think, Michael, what would be the one thing that would stick out from it? Because I think I kind of mentioned everything. Oh, man, you put me on the spot. Now I'm having a hard time.
That's all good.
Just kind of what sticks out is just the overall experience. I was there 3 months, like I said, all those days, but it feels like I was there 2 days. It just went by so fast because it was just so exciting to go into work every single day and be like, okay, what am I going to see now that's going to blow my mind? I had a client of mine come in the day before I left, and I was super excited. I was telling him I was going, and he's like, you need to keep a diary. And I said, I don't know about a diary. He's like, well, keep an audio diary then. So, because you're never going to have an experience like this. And for me, the sucky part is that career-wise, it's all downhill from here. Like, I'll never work on anything this cool again, unless I did Kobe Bryant's archive or something like that. But I kept an audio diary, and I listened to a couple of them. I would just go outside to take a quick little 5 or 10 minute break and just talk into my iPhone. And like when I was listening to it, I could just hear like the excitement in my voice, like, oh man, we found this. Because like Michael, it was like you're finding everything that you've seen in these videos and you're just finding these iconic pieces, and you're going through notebooks where it has, like, we found the notebook that had that he wrote the For You album on. So it's got all the songs handwritten. We found this is funny. This one kind of sticks out. We found tapes, like audio tapes. We didn't have anything to play the audio tapes on, but the audio tapes we found, I'm almost certain was probably a rough cut of the Dirty Mind album on a tape, because it was just marked 7980 on the tape. So I'm guessing it was around that time.
This was like a cassette tape or real?
Yeah, a cassette tape.
Oh, okay.
Cassette tape, and we did not have anything to play it on. I mean, I don't think we would have taken the risk of playing it, even if we found a cassette player. But nonetheless, no cassette player to play it. So not really knowing what was in there. But it was just like every single day you would run into something that as a Prince fan just kind of blew your mind. It was a daily occurrence for 3 months where I would just like leave there like more amazed than the day before. It was quite a trip.
It's amazing that he saved everything or kept a lot of these things. You know, I guess I don't know. I throw away so much stuff. And do I have things from when I was a kid? But it's interesting that he had all of the stuff, you know, and just kept it.
He kept everything. You know, he kept a lot of stuff fans would send him too. I went to there's a local framer down there that I went to visit. We did some really cool traditional darkroom prints. I had a guy who used to print for Herb Ritz, print up some of those negatives and make some really cool darkroom prints. So we were looking for someone local to frame them. And I went in there and I was talking to the person and they were like, he used to send his assistant here to get stuff framed all the time that fans would send him. I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, you see that he came in here one time with like a hand drawing of a giraffe. And I'm like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's in the little kitchenette over by the atrium. And if you walk by the atrium, it was there when I was there. Now I don't know, but walk by the atrium and see if you can see the hand drawn giraffe. Apparently that was something a fan sent him. And he liked it so much he took it and got it framed and put it up on his wall. Yeah. I mean, who does that?
Apparently Prince. All right. Well, wow, man, you dropped a lot of stuff in this to really sort of whet the appetite and just gives us a nice idea of there's so much in Paisley Park. But what I really take away from this, man, is, you know, just the care that you took, knowing the importance of, you know, what you're working on.
No, it was really, really important to, you know, try to preserve that for the legacy going forward. Like I said earlier, it was, for me as a fan, it was the least I could do. It was my thank you. Like, hey, thank you for all the great music for, you know, the last 30 years. Let me try to help preserve your legacy. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't think that it was important or if I didn't think that it was something that he wanted, because that was the whole thing. Like, would he have opened up Paisley Park for tours eventually? I mean, I believe he would have. And I saw how there were already portions set up, which made it a little bit easier for what needed to be done to open up as a museum. So I think it was something he ultimately wanted. And, you know, the last thing that I think any of us fans would have wanted is for that thing to have to be sold and somebody else own it. And it just, it right. Doesn't belong to Prince, because I think it still belongs to him and it belongs to his family. You're going to love it though, Michael, when you get in there, because you're a big Love Sexy era fan and they have so much Love Sexy stuff. So you'll have a really, really good time, I think.
All right.
Now, if they play the Love Sexy Dortmund show on a big, you know, full screen at the stadium with concert sound, I would freak out.
That would be awesome, right?
Yeah, it would.
Get the old band back together.
Shit. What if it opened and the stage was there? That'd be nuts.
You know those flowers that he has on in that show on that stage? You know what I'm talking about? What type of flower is it? Watch one of those Love Sexy shows and you'll pick up what I mean. He has these like plastic flowers. They're huge. I just, for the life of me, cannot remember the name of the flower. Those are littered all around Paisley Park. So it's almost like for those people that go to Disneyland and see like kind of hidden things like, oh, I saw this on It's a Small World. If you're a Prince fan and you kind of look around a corner or something, you might see something that might not be mentioned on the tour, but would be really cool. That's a thing too, man. When you go and anybody that goes out there, take the time to talk to your tour guides. They're like any tour, they're going off of a script that they've been given. But you'll hear some super like interesting stories. Like I'll tell you guys a couple that I think would be kind of fun. You guys may have already heard these, but I heard them from people that work there. So they're verified. REM mixed their album there, the final cut At a Time. And you guys know the story about how I got the title Out of Time?
I don't. Actually, I don't know.
No.
Oh, okay. So Warner Brothers was bugging them to give them an album title so they could, start doing press, and they didn't have an album title at all. So they're there and they're like, well, I think Buck is the one that says, well, we're at Prince's studio, party over, oops, out of time. 99.
Clever.
Then they had the basketball incident where Prince had the hoop up, and they're like, hey, can we play basketball? And Prince is like, yeah, you can play basketball, but you got to vacuum the studio. So they actually vacuumed the studio. And I think he was joking, but nonetheless, they vacuumed the studio so they could use the basketball hoop.
Wow.
Okay. You know what? I did have one last question. I'm sorry. I'm just curious.
Hey, man, it's your podcast. You got to edit.
No, I want to respect your time. But did you guys, anybody, how do I ask this? His office.
Yeah.
In that area, was that an off-limits area to you guys, or did you have to also sort of catalog items there?
Everything had to be cataloged, but that one was, it was one of the few rooms that was completely locked. I mean, there were certain areas that, when you're working on a project like that, not everybody has the same level of access, but that was one that no one was going into. I only went into it a couple of times before it opened. It was actually really interesting to go in there because you could kind of see what he was working on. Like they had all that Purple Rain remaster stuff there. Like they had gotten all the original like content from Warner Brothers for the movie. So I mean, you're looking at like movie stills, single covers, that sort of stuff. So they left that laid out pretty much exactly as it was when he passed, including like he had the random. He used to have a cat, I guess, that died a long time ago, and he had a little holder, like a travel holder for the cat, that was still in that office, and I think that's still in there. But everybody was really, really respectful. Everybody got searched on the way. First of all, it was ridiculous because we were going in every day for 3 months and they were still asking us for ID. And it was like the same person every time. It's like, really? But all jokes aside, you would get searched on the way in and you would get searched on the way out just to make sure that nothing.
Yeah, sprouted legs. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So everybody was super respectful. I found a notebook. And, you would go in and read the notebooks and try to figure out what it was. So like I said, I saw the one with the Purple Rain stuff. I found one that was personal. And I realized it was personal after reading like about the first paragraph in it. And I put it away because it's none of my business. If it's personal, that's his. That I don't have a right to know about what he was thinking about personally. That's his. So I think that not only me, but there was just a level of respect for what the rules were there. We weren't allowed to eat meat on campus.
Oh, wow.
So I couldn't bring in a turkey sandwich. We'd have to go out to eat. If we wanted to eat at the studio, we had to eat vegetarian. There's obviously no drinking. There was no smoking. So it was very respectful to, I think, his wishes and how he would run it. I mean, look, I know there's certain things that are changing now, the Super Bowl party coming up and all that stuff. But, I mean, it is what it is. But the office, like you said, no, not too many people went in there. It was usually locked. And it was actually, I think, one of the final things that we had that was set up for the opening, because they did have to change a couple of things in there with the windows and stuff to make it work for the tour.
Wow. All right. Elan, respect that, man. I respect you sharing your story with us. That's a blessing. Man, that's you guys couldn't even eat meat. That just really goes to show the level of, the seriousness and the respect they have for Prince. Because I know if, again, they wouldn't have had me in there because they'd be like, what's that sandwich you eat, Mike? It smells kind of fun. I mean, it's a chitlin sandwich. Said, this ain't meat. And he be like, chitlins? I don't know. But anyway, I'm stupid. But listen, thank you so much for coming on and definitely for sharing this.
I want you, when you have somebody drop out from one of these album reviews that you guys do, to give me a holler. I'd love
man.
To chat with you guys about
we
that.
can make that happen. That's all. Well, we can definitely do that. Where can people find you online if you want them to find you online?
Yeah, I have a Twitter. It's ELANDCOHEN, Elan D. Cohen, and my Instagram is the same, except it's Elan D. Cohen 2, because apparently there's another Elan D. Cohen. I've never met him, but he's on there. Oh, can I tell you guys one funny little
of course.
Anecdote?
Yes.
Which you guys, all right. So he was, when I would do the tours, we would go into the MPG room and I would tell people this story and they would laugh. Was he had Questlove DJing, and everybody knows who Questlove is. He's phenomenal. He has Questlove DJing, and in the middle of Questlove's set, he says, "I'm bored," and he just throws on Finding Nemo on the opposite screen during his set. Just puts it on the on projector during his set. Like, he was a prankster for sure. He loved to do stuff like that. But people, I mean, you got one of the best DJs in the world playing at your place, and then you're gonna ruin his set by going on Finding Nemo. That's pretty much. That's Prince.
Put on that Disney movie.
Yeah, Quest, you're not getting it done. Put on some cartoons.
Wow. Well, shout out to Questlove for sure. All right, Big Sexy.
Yo.
Sir, thank you for coming on as well, joining me.
Pleasure as always.
And we have to thank our listeners out there. We got the best listeners, let me tell you. Prince community, we got so much love for y'all, and hopefully we are serving you well and bringing more, to help this legacy. And shout out to all of the other, Prince related shows online. Dr. Funkenberry, Peach and Black, Casey Rain, Prince's Friend, Purple Underground. Shout out to all the other, organizations out there. Purple Playground, Paisley 5 and Dime, the people at Paisley Park. There's a few others. I'm sorry that I don't have the list in front of me, but I'm just saying, man, we all in this thing together. And shout out to Paisley Park for keeping this thing going. And yeah, if you can, I would say definitely go out there this April and, let's break bread. Even if you can't go to the celebration, there's going to be so much stuff going on in town. And just, the thing is, the best thing about it, a lot of Prince people are going to be there. So that energy in the city is just going to be amazing, and there's different events going on. I love it. All right. Also, lastly, shout out to all our Patreon family holding the show down. We always give you this show first. We so much appreciate everything that you guys have made available to us, and you're keeping this show going. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to you and to everybody. I gotta say, work it like a job. We will see you next time. Peace.
Just need some cougars. Not congas, cougars. Damn. It's a new song by James White and the Blacks. Damn. James Black and the Whites.